Welcome to LifeBlood. This is George G, and the time is right. Welcome to today's guest, strong and powerful Victor Sagalovsky. Victor, are you ready to do this?
Yes, thanks for having me.
Excited to have you on. Victor is the CEO of Litewater Scientific. He's a polymath, help optimization expert, product innovator. Victor, tell us a little bit about your personal life, some more about your work, and why you do what you do.
Well, I do what I do because I like feeling good. That's the most important thing. So when I started out, I wasn't feeling so good in my early 20s, and I wanted to find out why. And as soon as I figured that part out, I like I like having energy. I like never having fatigue. I like being sharp optimally. I like always being in that state of of optimal health. So these are some of the things that I've researched and really spent a lot of time acquiring for myself, and I like to share it with others.
Nice. Well, I certainly appreciate that. I think that, well, I assume that everybody wants to feel that way, right? But maybe that's not true. But you weren't feeling well. How did
Oh
that?
well, I mean, the thing I learned early on in my life that I needed to stay clear of doctors. So in by my early 20s, I had realized that there was nobody that was going to help me, right? No matter what state of health I was in, that I had to figure this out for myself, at least myself being the stubborn individual that I am, and somebody that always questions everything as a armchair gerontologist, armchair biochemist, just somebody that started out that it did it that I got to 20 years old before I realized that you are what you eat. And some people go through their entire life and never get there. So as soon as I found that out, that was a huge revelation, which led me in the path of what interventions can we do to extend our life, increase our health? What are the most important things? What's the manual? We come into this world with this incredible human body, but we don't have the manual of how to operate it. And all the manuals that I read were just didn't make any sense to me. So there are certain things that certain interventions that we have that can get us to certain places easier, places that we want to be, places where we have energy and youth for as long as we can possibly have it. And one of those things that I discovered on my journey is deuterium depletion. And this to me was the the crown on the Christmas tree. So I pursued it for years, decades even. So, and we got to where we are today. And I like to share this revelation among all the revelations that there are for optimal health. This to me is the most important, which is known as deuterium depletion. And most people never even heard the word deuterium. So there we are.
You can count me in that group. I'm looking at this word. I'm like, how do I even pronounce that? Deuterium. What is it?
Deuterium, yeah, and the truth is, if we had a good even public school education in chemistry, we would know what that word is because it's an isotope of hydrogen, and that was a huge revelation. Its discovery in 1932 was a huge revelation because if we didn't discover that hydrogen actually has other forms of it, then we wouldn't have had the atomic age. Without deuterium, we wouldn't have had atomic bombs or atomic energy. That was a massive revelation. So it's something that should be known about in terms of even on the periodic table. But it's also the most natural contaminant that there is. It's the oldest contaminant there is, and it's the most ubiquitous. And each of us have about 1 gram to 2 grams of this stuff in our bodies. So the goal is to reduce the amount that you have because it's wreaking havoc on our biology, on our ability to produce not only energy, but our ability to replicate our enzymes and DNA and everything properly to keep this body going as youthful for as long as possible. So this is the difference between deuterium and a regular hydrogen, because we all heard the word hydrogen, we must have, because you need 2 hydrogens and 1 oxygen to make water, H2O. So in water, instead of like we think water is H2O, but if you take a liter of water, okay, that's the 33 and some ounces of water, which is essentially 20,000 drops of water. In that 20,000 drops of H2O, you're going to have 6 drops of what's HDO, that D being deuterium. And all it is, it's just a heavier version of hydrogen, but it's twice as heavy. It's double the mass. So it wreaks havoc everywhere in our bodies at the nano level where we make energy inside our mitochondria, where it's looking for a hydrogen, a regular one, known as protium, which is one proton, one electron. And instead it gets this deuterium, which is twice as heavy. It's twice as heavy because it also has a neutron. And our bioenergetic production pathways don't like this at all, don't like this deuterium. And we keep getting hit by it, right? Over and over and over as we produce energy. And this is something that nature has evolved to deal with, but we have too much deuterium on the planet right now. As odd as that sounds, we need to lower it in our bodies by at least 20% to get into an optimal form where we can manage it to have a nice, happy, healthy, long life, light on our feet. So this is the big revelation, because it's a very easy intervention that we can all do, is drink deuterium depleted water. That allows us to lower our deuterium levels in our bodies by 20%, and then we get the benefits of a deuterium depleted body. And some people already get this because they live in areas of the earth, rare places where not too many people live, where they already get the benefit of drinking water that's 20% or more reduced in deuterium. Everybody else, we have to buy it from our company, Litewater Scientific. So, but it's a new standard in water purity. It's a revelation, because in terms of water purity, 40 years ago, we didn't know we needed to take arsenic and lead out. We didn't have reverse osmosis membranes. And in the future, everybody's going to understand that you have to reduce, or if you can, remove in its entirety this HDO molecule from water, which is where that deuterium shows up.
Nice. Okay. How'd you
So
figure this out?
that's the crash course for you.
How did you figure this out?
There's a lot of science on this. Who figured it out originally was these two, a gerontologist and a biophysicist in the University of Tomsk in the late 50s in Siberia. And they were looking at these two populations of Siberian people and wanted to see why they had so many more centenarians than everywhere else in the Soviet republics and Europe in general. They had 324 centenarians per 1 million, and they were living in Eskimo-like conditions, whereas everybody else had like 8 to 10 centenarians per million. So they wanted to understand what it was, and eventually they honed in on the fact that they were drinking glacial water that was 16% lower in deuterium. And this set off this science that's been around now for almost 75 years. And I read an article in 2004, and to me it made an incredible amount of sense that this is, if you want to save your mitochondria, if you want to have the ability to even produce new mitochondria, which is mitogenesis, right? If you want to stay younger longer, if you want to slow down the aging process, you have to address this deuterium problem. Nothing else is really going to do it. And it's a new concept because it's like I said, it's new and not new. It's new in the sense that we've only been able to produce this water and make it available to North American consumers since 2019. But the science goes back 75, almost 80 years. So it's phenomenal because it really works. And what's working is when you lower your body's deuterium level, your mitochondria can produce more energy. And when it produces more energy, you and me and everything in nature, every body is a self-healing organism, right? It will heal on its own if given the right energy, the right nutrients, and the right amount of energy. So this helps that quite a bit, more than anything else I've ever found. And I've been a health product developer and health coach, and just, I'm interested in researching how to, selfishly how to stay younger longer, right? But for myself and everybody, because I think this is the greatest quest that we can possibly have while we're alive, is to figure out how this body works, and if did people live to 1,000 years in the past? It says so in some books that have survived that over that time. So we have this ability now that we've entered this space age that we're in to get to the point where we can extend our human lifespan. And this is one of those greatest interventions that I've ever discovered. And I think in time, people are going to realize that it really is the crown on the Christmas tree of longevity and biohacking.
Nice. All right. So the regular water that I'm drinking, just
Okay.
the water that I'm consuming has
Yeah.
too much deuterium in it.
Probably where you are, your water is about 150 parts per million. And if you're drinking a water that, let's say, is 120 parts per million, the amount of energy that saves you, that conserves over a lifetime or over a year, over a decade, it's enormous. It's phenomenal. So people that live in areas naturally where the water is lower in deuterium, they have a better shot at this. And there's studies to back this up. There's, like I said, decades of literature on this stuff. It's just not well known about, like, a lot of things. But it's something that it's changed my life, and it's changed the lives of every one of the customers that's been with us for this time that we've been selling this water. And the water is like I said, the water is just meant for you to reduce your body's deuterium levels. And we started a laboratory to test your deuterium levels. So what people do is they buy our water, which is super deuterium depleted water. It's 10 parts per million. And then they dilute it. They dilute it with their regular water, or they just drink 1 or 2 bottles of it and drink everything else they're doing. And then at the end of the day, as long as you put in water that has less deuterium than the water in your body, there's a scientific process in chemistry known as hydrogen exchange. You will dump some of that other heavier hydrogen water, the heavy water it's called, or semi-heavy water. So we want to reduce this heavy water that's in our bodies. And it's a new type of intervention, because it's not about putting something in, it's about taking something out.
Got it. Okay. And so the idea is that my mitochondria is having to deal with this and devote resources towards getting rid of this excess deuterium.
Right. So in 2007, it was finally discovered, because it was known about for 60 years that it does the damage. And when you reduce it, there's less damage. When you increase it, there's more damage, and exponentially in both directions. But in 2007, it was discovered how it actually does the damage. And this is a mechanical problem. Inside our mitochondria, we have something in the electron transport chain. At the end of the electron transport chain, we have something known as ATP synthase nanomotors. These are actual motor generators that spin up to 9,000 RPM to produce ATP in our body. Now, they spin because they get a bunch of protons that come in, hydrogen protons. But every 5 seconds, instead of a proton coming in, you have a proton-neutron pair. That's the deuterium. So that hits the motor. That causes it to stutter, causes it to torque, and over time break down. When something stutters like that, that's being held by a membrane, eventually it weakens that membrane. Once the membrane is weakened and then you have leakage, that's it. Eventually that's the starting point for the end of that mitochondria, and eventually the end of that cell. So when we're young, a cell may have 60,000 mitochondria. When we're 50 years down the line, we may have 600. So the mitochondria are little factories, and once they're gone, they're very hard to replace. And it all starts these ATP synthase nanomotors that produce the ATP energy that runs our biology. So every 5.5 seconds, if you're drinking water that's 150 ppm, and you get it from food too, primarily, your motors are getting impinged upon. They're getting hit by something that doesn't fit inside there, like a square peg in a round hole. And this is just a mechanical problem. Now, we try to limit it, but unfortunately, because of where we are right now in time, how much deuterium we have on our planet, we've outrun it. We basically outrun it. So we need to reduce it a bit, and then we're okay. It's simple, but it's profound, and it's if I have seen further, it's because I stood on the shoulders of giants. This is a great thing. And unfortunately, you have to you have to pay for water that's expensive. And you can do that now with this knowledge. You can do it. You can get there somewhat without drinking deuterium depleted water, which it's not that expensive compared to drinking a Starbucks every day. But you can know that ketogenic diet, fasting. These are deuterium depletion strategies. And you can learn more about this. Like, we have so much information on this, and you can learn what deuterium is doing to your body, and then you can educate yourself and understand that this is one of those hidden mechanisms of aging, and it's been discovered, and now we just have to learn how it affects us. And this is the new science of deuteronomics, which is growing in biochemistry.
Exciting. And so you figured out and developed a process for filtering the water and removing.
Well, I didn't. You know, there's 3, maybe 4 factories on the planet that can do this. I tried to figure it out on my own, and then when I went to Russia. Now, interesting little bit of history about me. I came here from the Soviet Union when I was 7 years old. So I went looking for this stuff. This stuff started in the Soviet Union and Russia. So I went over there. Luckily, I still spoke the language, so I was able to find the people that were doing this. And it's a very, very difficult process. You need a big factory. You need tons of equipment. It's just massive. Nothing I could have done on my own. It takes some serious science, know-how, and industrial process. So I went over there, and now we have it over here, and so yeah, I got fortunate in that sense. But there's because it's such a energy intensive process, it's an expensive water, and there's 4 companies on the planet that make this stuff. So we're one of them, and I'm very happy to share this with you.
Nice. I think it's fascinating. So I'm super grateful that there's smart people like you out there who are thinking about this stuff and that can actually figure out how to, you know, for lack of a better term, manufacture it, and then put it into our hands so that we can enjoy all the benefits that you're talking about. So how much is the water, Victor? Is it $1,000 a bottle?
Actually, most people spend about between 300 and 350 per month. That's what they spend. So it become, you know, for a lot of people can't afford that. But I have what I've noticed is we have 2 types of customers: people that can afford to drink it, and people that can't afford not to drink it because of the extra boost that it gives you. It's taken away. It's reducing a burden that is in our biology that is slowing us down. So this is no trivial matter, because everything that we eat puts more and more deuterium in our bodies. And when you look at biochemistry and you look at the water that's inside our mitochondria, right? Because we have bulk water, extracellular water in our body, and then we have a very special structured type of water inside the mitochondria. It's called metabolic water. And that water, when you look at it, study it, you see that it's 60 to 70% deuterium depleted. You go, wow, the body's trying to keep this away from these motors, but it can't. It's by the time, as soon as you're born, a little bit down the line, you get overrun. And then this aging process starts because you're overrun, and it just impinges on everything, this deuterium. And it's naturally occurring. If we go to Antarctica, it's 89 parts per million, which is the lowest on the planet. That glacial water is locked in time from 80 million years ago, when you had 3-story ferns and 10-story dinosaurs. So, and things lived longer. And if you look in nature, you can also see that nature takes a deuterium depletion strategy as well. We don't have time to get into that, but it's fascinating how you see, once you understand this, you see that every animal, every plant in nature has a deuterium depletion strategy. Everything in biochemistry has a strategy to manage this heavy water. So it's very new. It's very new, and you're gonna hear more about this deuterium problem.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Well, Victor, thank you so much for coming on. Where can people learn more about you, and where can they buy Litewater?
So go to drinklitewater.com. Litewater is spelled LITEWATER, drinklitewater.com. We also have deuteriumtest.com, where you can test yourself. There's also deuteriumdepletion.org, which just lists all the independent site that lists all the studies and literature on this, if you're interested in that sense. But on drinklitewater.com, you can download a free deuterium depletion guide, which will make you pretty close to an expert pretty quick, and you get the information and you'll understand what it is and understand what you can do about it.
Love it. Well, if you enjoyed this as much as I did, show Victor your appreciation and share today's show with a friend who also appreciates good ideas. Go to drinklitewater.com, DRINKLITEWATER.com, and check out the great resources. Take advantage of that deuterium depletion guide that Victor was talking about, and find out how it's affecting you and how limiting it, getting rid of it in your body, can increase health span and lifespan and aging and everything that Victor's been talking about today. Thanks again, Victor.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
And until next time, remember, do your part by doing your best.